In my last video, I told you guys that Robs was right. You're never safe from dropping your FPS to 100. Your frames will betray you faster than your solo queue teammate holding B site on Inferno. Last time, I promised a deeper dive, so here it is. People keep saying demos perform 100% worse than real games. Well, no, I've got data to prove quite the opposite. In fact, live games are usually worse, thanks to the network overhead. Robs literally felt it on stage, and trust me, it was even worse than you would see in the demo. And it's just not what's on your screen. Utility across the map, people just moving around, or even some random guy shooting on the other side. All of this can tank your FPS. In this video, I'll show you why AnimGraph 2 won't magically fix all of the performance issues, why your mouse sometimes feels so sticky and laggy with random input lag, why your game just feels like 60 Hz even if your FPS shows like 240, and how bad performance makes Peaker's advantage even worse. And no, even with a 9800 X3T and an RTX 5090, you're not bulletproof. So let's get right into it, right after Skins Monkey. Skins Monkey is an automated trading site. Simply trade an old skin that you don't want for a new skin that you do want. The advanced filters make it super easy to find anything. Use my code COOK to get $5 on your first trade and a 35% deposit bonus. They've got 24/7 live support, and don't forget to take part in the free giveaways. They've got free daily, weekly and monthly giveaways. Link is in the description. Now, back to the topic. Some claim demos are 100% worse than what you would see performance in the live game. That's fundamentally wrong. In real games, you've got networking overhead, one of the main issues AnimGraph 2 is even trying to fix. In reality, live games give worse FPS than demos, unless you enable X-ray and mess with the playback of demo. Here's a round I recorded live while logging in CapFrameX, and then also in demo. Orange is demo, blue is live. Look at the numbers. Average frame time is way better in the demo than the live version. The demo has better average FPS, better 1% lows, and better P1 values. Standard deviation for live game is worse by 100%. Frame-to-frame pacing, RMSST, is again worse by almost 100%. Same story with every single metric. Look at the graph of frame time above 4 milliseconds. Live frames, which are orange, break the 240 Hz cycle far more often than the yellow one. So yeah, demos actually perform better. So basically what Robs felt in that game was worse than what you guys saw in your demos. Here's another comparison. You'll see some identical spikes. In fact, these two graphs give a slightly noisy difference of how networking in CS2 makes CS2 performance even worse. The next step I want to talk about is average FPS. That makes people think they have great performance. Most of you guys run this benchmark map to say your 1% lows are fine. But there are three major problems with this setup. Firstly, this value is your P1 value, not 1% lows. Secondly, you spend 95% of the time doing nothing, which increases your FPS. Thirdly, the FPS matters most when there are smokes or people shooting at you. A 300 FPS at this time is much better experience than 2000 FPS just walking around the map. Doing this just artificially inflates your number. So here is what I want you to do. Record a 1-minute deathmatch with Steam's in-game performance overlay. Make sure you select this option. This is how you enable it. Make sure your transparency is set to quite a low value for integrity issues. Hop in a deathmatch, enable build info, and just record a video of you playing deathmatch for 1 minute and see how many times your 1% lows drop to below 150. Now I know a lot of you guys don't know what this means, so the left hand side is your average FPS, the second one is your like 1% lows, and the third one is like the high FPS that you're getting. The graph you see is like your frame time. So I hope this helps in clarification of people who are not understanding the numbers on the screen. You can use any tweak, any setting that you want. In fact, you can drop your resolution to the lowest value possible. Try to get above 150 1% lows with any setting in a deathmatch for 1 minute. Of course, you want to be shooting at people and the server has to be populated. With that done, let us finally come to the bugs. Now, I want you guys to kind of focus on the right hand side. Look at how long it takes for your average FPS to fall down on the right hand screen, but our 1% low and frame time graph is already kind of screwed. Now you might be asking me, well, why are you stacking Molotovs like this? It makes no sense. Of course the FPS is going to drop. Well, a lot of utility is thrown between executes. So if I go to the other side of the map and just again start throwing those Molotovs, you can see my FPS completely tank and just blow it out. Like this frame time graph is horrible. Horrible. Now, let's have a look at CSGO. You can see if I throw the Molotov, of course my 1% lows are going to drop, but they don't drop to the same extent. You can see the frame time graph is fairly consistent. Like you can shoot, you're not going to miss many frames in between. Now let's see what happens if I go to the other side. Again, I'm going to see a little bit drop in my 1% lows, but not as terrible as CS2. Like CS2 basically makes it impossible to peak. Now, what about spraying in smoke? You can see my 1% lows, they don't drop much often. It's fairly a stable spray, so your spraying feels far more consistent. Again, now what happens if I shoot the people in the head? Well, my 1% lows do drop when I shoot the people in the head in CSGO as well. Now, I want to compare a whole lot of stuff. Right here, I'm tagging because a lot of times when you feel like you're getting shot first, like you don't have any kind of reply. So over here, you can see my 1% lows not decreasing that much. Let's compare the spray in CS2. And if there's a smoke and you're spraying and there are people present, this is how your frame time graph looks like. It's completely done. And look at my average values, like they don't get affected much. And that's what gives you that false sense. Any sort of tagging will reduce your 1% lows. Again, this will increase your input lag. Make sure you see less frames on your screen. This is what that 60 Hz, 120 Hz feeling comes from. And any death happening on server will again decrease your 1% lows. So you can see how this can be a problem, like somebody's fighting somebody on other part of the map and throwing utility and your performance gets skewed. Let me show you kind of an example. Now, I'm not an opper. I just want you to spot a tiny difference between these two clips. So this is the first clip. And this is the second clip. Did you see that? My 1% low, even before the person peak, dropped to 162, meaning I kind of missed a frame. Or 2, or maybe 3, who knows? And in the other clip, before I shoot, I don't lose FPS. Now this is very critical because you need smooth frame tracing to kind of track enemies properly and have kind of a similar input lag. Because if your input lag is going all up and down, it is really going to screw up with your aim. This is something that you must have felt when you're playing like your pistol round and you're aiming very fluidly and suddenly your mouse is just behaving very erratically. Like a change in sensitivity, it's getting stuck or it's just moving too fast. So imagine this is somebody's head and you want to track it over your screen. As you can see, my 1% lows are around 500 and stuff like that. It's all good. But in your game, your mouse input lag would also behave differently. Right now, this is in windowed mode in this game, so it doesn't affect it. But your input lag would also be kind of influenced by how the player model is moving and how many frames you're getting per second, including your 1% lows. So what if I start a bit of stutter? As you can see, this is not moving in a uniform fashion anymore. It can kind of skip frames, not skip frames. So already tracking is getting kind of tricky. And since you are dropping a bit of frames, this is really going to make things worse. And now imagine your mouse has input lag and you're trying to track this target, which appears to be moving at erratic speeds. And that makes the peeker's advantage worse because the person peeking into you, their frames are kind of getting interpolated and you just don't feel that sense of uniformity along with your horrible input lag. So long story cut short, CS2's problems are kind of bigger than just Anim Graph 2. Anim Graph 2 will definitely improve the performance, but this problem seems to be game related. Enabling, disabling, capping, or doing all this kind of weird stuff is not really going to help it. But if you feel like it's going to help it, you can record that 1 minute of that matte footage. And if your FPS never drops below 150 in 1% lows, do send me that clip. In my next video, I'll be debunking some really funny myths, and I'm really surprised that people actually don't test this before saying this. So I'll see you in the next video.